What if I told you that success is not about talent, intelligence, or hard work, but about one simple skill that most people completely ignore? Think about it. Right now, there are people who are more skilled than you, more educated than you, and working harder than you. Yet they are stuck. And at the same time, there are others who seem to move ahead effortlessly. They build connections faster, gain respect easily, and influence people without force. Why? What do they know that most people don't? This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is a hidden skill, and once you understand it, your entire life changes. Because this skill controls how people see you, how they treat you, and how they respond to you. Imagine walking into a room full of people. Some individuals immediately draw attention. People listen to them, respect them, trust them, while others are ignored, overlooked, or even disliked. Even if they are equally capable. What's the difference? It's not their knowledge. It's not their background. It's how they make others feel. Because here's the truth most people never realize. People don't care how smart you are until they feel that you care about them. And this is where everything begins to shift. Alex experienced this himself. He was talented, hardworking, and focused, but something always felt off. In conversations, people didn't seem fully engaged. In meetings, his ideas didn't get the attention they deserved. And slowly, he started believing that maybe he wasn't good enough. But the reality was different. It wasn't his ability that was the problem, it was his approach. He was trying to impress people instead of connecting with them. And that one mistake was holding him back. Dale Carnegie discovered something powerful. The desire to feel important is one of the strongest human needs. Every person you meet is secretly asking one question: do I matter? And the way you answer that question determines how they treat you. Ignore it, and you lose influence. Understand it, and you gain power. This is not manipulation. This is understanding human nature. Because when people feel valued, they open up. They trust you. They listen to you. And most importantly, they remember you. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people try to gain attention by talking about themselves, their achievements, their problems, their opinions. But this creates the opposite effect. Because when you focus on yourself, you lose connection. But when you focus on others, you create attraction. This is the first powerful principle. Be genuinely interested in other people. Not fake interest. Not forced conversation. Real curiosity. Ask questions. Listen carefully. Pay attention. Because when you do this, something powerful happens. People start enjoying your presence. Alex started testing this. Instead of trying to impress, he started listening more. Instead of talking about himself, he started asking about others. And slowly, things changed. Conversations became easier. People responded differently. They smiled more. They engaged more. And for the first time, he felt something different: connection. Not forced, not awkward, but natural. And that's when he realized influence doesn't come from talking more. It comes from understanding more. But here's the deeper truth. This is not just a skill. It's a mindset. Because you cannot fake genuine interest. People can feel it. They can sense it. And if it's not real, it doesn't work. That's why this principle is simple, but not easy. It requires you to shift your focus. From yourself to others. From impressing to connecting. And this is where the transformation begins. Because once you understand people, you stop struggling with them. You stop forcing conversations. You stop trying too hard. And instead, you start influencing naturally. Now the question is, the next time you talk to someone, will you try to impress them, or will you try to understand them? Because what you're about to discover next will completely change how people respond to you. What if your entire relationship with someone is decided in just a few seconds? Before you even say anything meaningful. Before you share your ideas. Before you prove your value. It sounds unfair, but it's real. Because human beings don't wait for full information. They decide quickly, instantly, based on small signals. Your face, your tone, your energy. And once that first impression is formed, it becomes very hard to change. This is why some people are liked immediately, and others are ignored without even knowing why. And the difference often comes down to something incredibly simple, something most people underestimate: your smile. Now think about this. When you see someone who looks serious, closed, or uninterested, what do you feel? Distance, discomfort, maybe even tension. But when you see someone who smiles naturally, who feels open and warm, what happens? You relax. You feel safe. You feel welcome. And without realizing it, You become more open to that person. This is not psychology theory. This is human nature. A genuine smile sends a powerful signal. It tells people, you are safe here. And that one signal can change everything. Alex didn't realize this at first. In his mind, he believed that being serious made him look professional, focused, strong. But in reality, it was creating the opposite effect. People felt distant from him. Conversations felt formal. Connections felt weak. And he didn't understand why. Until one day, he noticed something. The people who were most liked weren't the smartest or the most talented. They were the ones who made others feel comfortable. And a big part of that was their energy, their expression, their presence. So Alex tried something simple. He started smiling more, not in a forced way, but in a real, relaxed way. And immediately, he noticed a shift. People responded differently. Conversations felt lighter. Interactions felt smoother. Even strangers seemed more open. And this is where he realized something powerful. People don't just respond to your words, they respond to your energy. And your face is the first thing they read. But here's where it gets deeper. A fake smile doesn't work. People can sense it instantly. It feels off, unnatural. And instead of building connection, it creates doubt. That's why Dale Carnegie emphasized something important. Your smile must come from genuine interest, genuine warmth, genuine presence. Because when it's real, it becomes powerful. Now think about your daily interactions. How often do you meet people with a neutral face, a distracted expression, a rushed attitude? That has become normal. And because it's normal, it stands out even more when someone is different, when someone is present, when someone is positive, when someone makes you feel noticed. And that's your opportunity. Because in a world where most people are distracted, being fully present is rare. And rare is powerful. Alex started combining this with something else, attention. Not just smiling, but actually listening. Looking at people when they spoke, reacting to what they said. And something interesting started happening. People began enjoying talking to him. They felt heard. They felt valued. And that created a strong connection. Because here's the truth. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. And when you become the person who truly listens, you instantly stand out. But there's another layer to this. Because first impressions are not just about how you look, they are about how you make people feel in those first moments. Do they feel judged or accepted? Do they feel ignored or noticed? Do they feel tension or comfort? And these feelings are created instantly, often without words. This is why small things matter. Eye contact, body language, tone of voice. These are signals, and people read them subconsciously. You may not notice it, but they do. And based on those signals, they decide how to respond to you. Now imagine this. You walk into a room. You are calm. You are present. You are relaxed. You smile naturally. You make eye contact. You listen when others speak. You respond with interest. Without saying anything extraordinary, you have already created a powerful impression. People feel comfortable around you. They trust you. They enjoy your presence. And that is influence. Alex could feel this change happening in real time. He wasn't trying harder. He was just being more aware, more present, more intentional. And that made all the difference. But here's the real question. The next time you meet someone, will you be just another face in the room, or the person people remember? Because what you're about to discover next will show you how to make people like you without trying. And most people completely miss it. What if making people like you had nothing to do with being impressive? Not your achievements, not your intelligence, not your status, but something far simpler, something most people completely ignore. Think about the people you genuinely like. Is it because they talk about themselves all the time? Because they try to prove how smart they are? Or is it because when you're around them, you feel good? You feel heard. You feel valued. You feel important. That's the difference. People don't like you for who you are. They like you for how they feel around you. And once you understand this, everything changes. Alex started noticing this pattern everywhere. The most liked people weren't the loudest. They weren't the most dominant. They weren't trying to control conversations. Instead, they did something different. They made others the center of attention. They asked questions. They listened carefully. They reacted genuinely. And without forcing anything, people naturally liked them. This is the first invisible rule. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. Because when you speak about what matters to them, you instantly create connection. Now think about your own conversations. How often do people lose interest? How often do they check their phone, look away, or give short responses? That's not random. That's feedback. It means the conversation is not engaging them. And most of the time, the reason is simple. You're talking about what matters to you, not what matters to them. But the moment you shift that focus, everything changes. Because now, the conversation is not about sharing information, it's about creating experience. Alex tested this in a simple way. Instead of talking about his own ideas, he started asking others about theirs. Instead of explaining his opinions, he asked for theirs. And something surprising happened. People opened up. They spoke more. They became more engaged. And without trying to impress anyone, Alex became more likable. Because people enjoy talking about themselves. It makes them feel important. And when you give them that opportunity, they associate that positive feeling with you. But here's where it gets even more powerful. Dale Carnegie revealed another principle: remember people's names. It sounds small, almost too simple, but it has a massive impact. Because a person's name is the sweetest sound to them. It represents their identity, their individuality, their importance. And when you remember it, when you use it, you send a clear message. You matter. Most people forget names within seconds. They don't pay attention. They don't care enough. And that's why remembering someone's name instantly sets you apart. Alex realized how often he had ignored this. Meeting people, forgetting names, moving on without connection. But once he started focusing on it, everything changed. He paid attention. He repeated names in conversation. He used them naturally. And the response was immediate. People smiled. They felt recognized. They felt valued. And that created a stronger bond. Now here's the deeper truth. Likability is not about tricks. It's about awareness. Awareness of what people feel. Awareness of what they need. Awareness of how you make them feel in your presence. Because every interaction leaves an impression. Every conversation creates an emotion. And that emotion determines whether people want to be around you again. But there's one more rule, and this one is powerful. Make the other person feel important, and do it sincerely. Not fake compliments. Not forced praise. Real recognition. Real appreciation. Because everyone wants to feel seen. Everyone wants to feel valued. And when you give that, you create something rare. Something memorable. Alex started practicing this in small ways. Appreciating people for what they did. Noticing things others ignored. Acknowledging effort. And something interesting happened. People responded with warmth. With respect. With openness. Because genuine appreciation creates connection. It builds trust. It makes people feel good. And that feeling becomes your influence. But here's the mistake most people make. They think influence is about control. About convincing others. About winning arguments. But real influence is different. It's about connection. It's about understanding. It's about making people feel heard, valued, and respected. And when you do that, you don't have to force anything. People naturally listen. They naturally agree. They naturally trust you. Now imagine this. You enter a conversation. You listen deeply. You ask questions. You remember names. You talk about what matters to them. You make them feel important. Without trying to impress, you become unforgettable. That's the power most people never unlock. Alex sat back and thought about this. Because now, it was clear, being liked is not about changing who you are. It's about changing how you connect. And now the question is, the next time you talk to someone, will you focus on being interesting or being interested? Because what you're about to discover next will show you how to influence people without conflict. And that is where real power begins. What if I told you that every argument you win actually makes you lose? Sounds strange, right? Because we've been taught to prove our point, defend our opinion, and show others that we are right. But think about it. Have you ever argued with someone and truly changed their mind? Or did they just become more defensive, more resistant, more convinced that they were right? This is the hidden truth most people never understand. You cannot win an argument and still keep the relationship strong. Because the moment you try to prove someone wrong, you attack their ego. And when ego is attacked, people stop listening. Alex had experienced this many times. In discussions, he would present strong points, logical arguments, and clear facts. And sometimes, he would even win. But something always felt off. The other person didn't seem convinced. They didn't seem open. Instead, they became quiet, or defensive, or distant. And slowly, Alex realized something powerful. Winning the argument didn't mean winning the person. In fact, it often pushed them away. This is where Dale Carnegie reveals one of the most powerful principles. The only way to win an argument is to avoid it. Not by staying silent. not by giving up your opinion, but by choosing a smarter approach. Because influence is not about forcing agreement, it's about guiding understanding. And that requires a completely different mindset. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," try something different. Try saying, "I might be wrong. Let's look at this together." Notice the shift. The tension disappears. The resistance drops. The conversation becomes open instead of defensive. Because now, you are not attacking, you are inviting. And when people feel invited instead of challenged, they listen. Alex started experimenting with this. In conversations, instead of correcting people directly, he asked questions. Instead of pushing his opinion, he explored theirs. And something interesting happened. People started opening up. They became more willing to listen, more willing to consider new ideas. And without forcing anything, Alex was able to influence them more effectively than ever before. But here's the deeper insight. People don't like to feel wrong. It threatens their identity, their self-image, their sense of control. And when that happens, they resist. Even if you are logically correct. That's why logic alone doesn't change minds. Emotion does. Respect does. Understanding does. Another powerful principle Carnegie shared is, let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. This is not manipulation. It's psychology. Because when people believe an idea is their own, they support it more strongly. They commit to it more deeply. And they act on it more willingly. But if the same idea is forced on them, they resist it. Alex noticed this in real life. When he told people what to do, they pushed back. But when he guided them with questions, they arrived at the same conclusion themselves. And because it felt like their own decision, they embraced it. This is the difference between control and influence. Now think about this. Every time you argue, you create resistance. Every time you listen, you create connection. Every time you respect someone's perspective, you open the door for change. And this is where real power lies. Not in being right, but in being effective. But there's one more layer to this. Because influence also requires humility. The ability to admit when you are wrong. The ability to say, "I made a mistake." And surprisingly, this doesn't weaken your position. It strengthens it. Because it builds trust. It shows honesty. It shows confidence. And people respect that. Alex realized that ego had been holding him back. The need to be right. The need to prove himself. But once he let go of that, everything became easier. Conversations became smoother. Relationships became stronger. And influence became natural. Now imagine this. You're in a disagreement. Instead of arguing, you listen. Instead of attacking, you understand. Instead of forcing your opinion, you guide the conversation. Slowly, the other person starts seeing your perspective without feeling pressured, without feeling wrong. And that's when real influence happens. Because in the end, people don't change because they are told to. They change because they feel understood. And now the question is, the next time you disagree with someone, will you try to win the argument? Or win the person? Because what you're about to discover next will show you how to lead people without authority. And that is the highest level of influence. What if you could lead people without having any authority over them? No title, no position, no control. And yet, people listen to you, respect you, and willingly follow your ideas. Sounds impossible? But this is the highest level of influence. Because true leadership is not given by position, it is earned through behavior. And most people never reach this level, not because they can't, but because they misunderstand what leadership really is. Think about the leaders you admire, not the ones who force orders, not the ones who use power, but the ones who inspire, the ones who make you want to listen, the ones who make you want to improve. What makes them different? It's not their authority, it's their approach. They don't command respect, they create it. And they do it in a very specific way, by making others feel important, valued, and understood. Alex started noticing this in real life. The people who had the most influence were not the loudest or the most controlling. They were calm. They listened. They understood people. And when they spoke, others paid attention. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And that's the difference between control and leadership. Control forces action. Leadership inspires it. Dale Carnegie revealed something powerful. If you want to influence someone, don't criticize them, encourage them. Because criticism creates resistance. It makes people defensive. It damages confidence. But encouragement does the opposite. It builds trust. It builds motivation. It creates willingness. And when people feel encouraged, they improve faster. Now think about this. When was the last time someone criticized you? How did it feel? Did it motivate you? Or did it make you defensive? Now think about a time someone genuinely appreciated you, believed in you, encouraged you. That feeling is powerful, and that's exactly what you can give to others. Alex started applying this. Instead of pointing out mistakes, he started recognizing effort. Instead of criticizing, he suggested improvements in a positive way. And something interesting happened. People responded better. They became more open, more willing, more cooperative. Because now, they didn't feel attacked, they felt supported. But here's where it gets even deeper. Because leadership is not about changing others, it's about changing how you interact with them. It's about understanding what drives people, what motivates them, what makes them feel valued. And when you understand that, influence becomes natural. Another powerful principle Carnegie shared is, talk about your own mistakes before criticizing others. This changes everything. Because now, you're not placing yourself above them, you're connecting with them. You're showing humility, you're showing understanding. And that makes your message easier to accept. Alex realized how powerful this was. When he approached conversations with humility instead of superiority, people listened more. They respected him more. And without forcing anything, he became more influential. Now imagine this. You're working with someone who made a mistake. Instead of saying, "You did this wrong," you say, "I've made similar mistakes before. Here's what helped me." Notice the difference. No tension, no resistance, just understanding. And that's how real leaders operate. Because in the end, people don't follow you because they have to. They follow you because they trust you. They respect you. They feel understood by you. And that trust is built through small actions, small words, small moments, repeated consistently. Alex sat there, reflecting on everything he had learned. From understanding people, to connecting with them, to influencing without force, to leading without authority. It all came down to one simple truth. Success with people is not about controlling them. It's about understanding them. And as he looked back at his journey, one realization became clear. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to be the most talented. You don't need to be the most powerful. All you need is the ability to connect. Because when you can truly understand people, you can influence them. And when you can influence people, you can change your entire life. Now the question is, the next time you interact with someone, will you try to prove yourself? Or will you try to understand them? Because once you master this, you don't just win conversations, you win people.